Wargamer Applied, the home of wargaming.
Hello and welcome to Monday Musing 58. I think I'm a bit big on screen there. I'll move back a bit for you. Hello everyone. Hopefully you can hear me okay. I am working on temporary microphones. So the last two shows we had, really bad sort of static crackle going through them. So essentially I've tried my best. I think Ralph will stand testament to this. I took my microphone to pieces and I stabbed it with a screwdriver repeatedly, and yet that didn't fix it. So I'm working on a temporary microphone. Hopefully you can still hear me okay. And good news is, hopefully my new microphone will arrive tomorrow. So certainly by the time we do the next live shows, we'll be under the wonderful dulcet tones of my new microphone. A few people saying hello. Sound seems fine, says Daryl. Thank you very much, Daryl. That's really useful for me to know. It has been somewhat of a concern. The annoying thing is, in all the test records here, we didn't get any of that crackle. So when when you're setting up for a show, you do a test record and just listen to the audio. Not a problem at all. It's only when I was broadcasting that signal did the static appear, which makes absolutely no sense whatsoever. But there you go. What can I do? Right, who have we got in the chat? Skegatron, Dipimus Maximus, and if I remember rightly, Dipimus Maximus was asking in a little chat. So, you know, when you accidentally bought a gloss black primer and didn't notice until you primed a couple of dudes with it, how big a problem is that? Personally, stick them back into isopropyl, give them a quick, if they're plastic, give them a strip down and go again with a matte. You could simply put the matte. Gloss is going to be difficult to paint on. It's great if you're doing metallics, of course. I mean, that's what the gloss black is for, really, ideally, when you're doing, you know, some of the metallics. The metal effects work really well when applied on top of a gloss primer. But if you just want it for general painting, then I suggest you need to go back to matte, in which case, because gloss primer is also a little bit thicker, usually, than matte primer, then I suggest that you dump them in some isopropyl, give them a quick strip and prime again. But, you know, that's my opinion. Hopefully other people in the chat may be able to, you know, give you an excuse not to do any of that. Daryl says, hey, Wargaming Online, usual Monday Tech Gremlins. Yes, I did. Moments before I went live, YouTube threw a wobbly and said it wasn't receiving a signal, even though I was broadcasting a signal, so these things are never easy. If they were super easy, then, you know, hey, we'd all be doing this. Right, Jim Wilson, hey everyone, how are we all tonight? Amit is in there saying hello. Amit, we've not spoken in ages. I think our times miss each other, don't we? So, might see you on the chat one day. Skegatron saying hi, Phil. Daryl says, sound team finds. Big Mac Danskill, evening all. Martin Dick says, hey, hey. John J says, hey, Hall. And Thomas Berg says, hey from Norway. Hey, all the way to Norway. From the sunny climes of United Kingdom. And it's not sunny here right now. It's grey and wet, but probably not as snowy as what you guys are going through. So, with that, I've caught up with the chat, which is lovely. Thank you very much for joining me tonight. It's just me tonight, partly because I don't trust my setup, so I kind of figured if I've got less to worry about, you know, people on the chat and the microphone inputs and the outputs and the sound and the you know, the reverb you get and all the rest, if I've got less to worry about, it probably seemed a sensible thing to do. So just me tonight for the next 57 minutes. How about that? What am I going to be talking about? Well, I think there's a few things. It's probably kind of a 2019 look ahead, really. Mainly going to be about Warhammer in either Age of Sigmar or 40k, with some consideration to what's going off with the doubles tournament and or at least any kind of tournament prep, to be honest. Because one of the things, I'm not big on New Year's resolutions, but one of the things I certainly want to do this year is attend at least 2 tournaments, and ideally I'm aiming for 3. Here's my logic. I want to do 2 doubles tournaments, one Age of Sigmar, one 40k. If I can get a second Age of Sigmar tournament in, I will do so, even if that's a single player. And possibly if I could also get a single player Warhammer 40k tournament in, all the better. So the maximum target I'm aiming for is 4. I think realistically I'm probably going to achieve 2 or 3. That's what I'm hoping for. We're definitely going to do the 2. I want to do a 40k one, and I want to do an Age of Sigmar one. So that's the plan. We'll talk a little bit later about the armies, but I also want to talk about what I'm hoping to get done both at Wargamer Online in 2019. Not much on that, but a little bit. And also, while I'm here, because it's just me, I'm going to need all of you wonderful people in the chat to keep me going. So you tell me what you've got planned for 2019. In 2016, I think it was, which is about the start of Wargamer Online, the only real resolution I made, I'm covered in plastic bits, by the way, I have been dremeling, so... in 2016, I decided to create more and consume less. Not in the sense of food, but in the sense of entertainment. So that's where I really kind of focused on wanting to either, create more things, make things, paint things, do things, and certainly spend less time consuming entertainment sat in front of a computer or sat in front of the TV. Now, there is a little caveat to that. I do tend to watch tutorials and things like that, and back reports and all the rest, while I'm sat doing my hobby, but that's another story. I consider that like as a net negative 0 payout result. None of that makes any sense. Okay, let's have a quick look at the chat, see what people things are saying, see what things people are saying. We've got throwing stuff at the wall fixes things much better. Stabbing with a screwdriver definitely doesn't. Thomas Berg says, oh, we've covered that one. Hey from Norway again. Ralph says, oh, blah blah blah. I think that's a bit of internal chat. Daryl says, what are you working on hobby wise? Just got my latest conquest box through, so building them up. That conquest box is a good deal. I really like it. I tell you what, let's have a quick look at what we've been working on. We'll talk a little bit about the prep for the Age of Sigmar tournament. In the meantime, let's just get to the bottom of the chat. It's rocketing along there, so this is good to see everybody in. Dr. Rotibus saying hello. Smorgs Raths, hey everyone, been a while since I've caught up on the show live. Smorgs Rath, it is good to see you, sir. Bluefer says hey. Paul Collier in. Hey all, painting Christmas Space Wolves, yay. Hi Paul, I might have mistaken. I thought you said you couldn't make it tonight, but fantastic that you have done. Amit says 57 mins of fill. Oh, bless. ITC terrain tools. Talk about that. I tell you what, you talk about the ITC terrain rules, because actually, seeing as though I literally walked in from work about 30 minutes ago, I've not actually caught up on the gossip. So what have I missed out when it comes to ITC terrain rules? I'd love to bring that up. Wargamer Online, 2 to 4 tournaments for 2019. Planning any open days too. Well, the New Year's open day I was planning, but those tickets sold out incredibly. We're definitely doing Salute this year, so we'll be going down to that as a show. Absolutely, Warhammer Fest. We'll be going along to that without a doubt. And we've also got Chilcon as well this year, and I think there's 2 Chilcons, Derby and Sheffield this year, so we're going along to those. So that's it possibly for events. Might do a few more. I'm hoping that Ralph is going to come over from Germany and come and stay with me, and we're going to potter on down to Salute together, but we'll see. Furious George says, hey Phil, sorry I'm late. Do not apologise, Furious, that's the great thing about replay. And Daryl says, my 2019 plan is to get as much hobby done before June as possible. Zeech, in his infinite wisdom, has blessed us with a second spawn during July. Congratulations, Daryl, that's absolutely amazing, mate. Wow, second child on the way in July as well. I'm a July baby, so's Jack, so there you go. Good time of year to be born. So yeah, congratulations, but you do indeed need to get that army finished then if you're going Zeech. Well, you're not going Zeech, actually. You've just said Zeech has sorted you out, so there you go. Durfus Maximus, I resolved to consume less and then tan the whole loaf of toast in form, toast form on the second, have no impulse control. Oh, for heaven's sakes. Skegatron, 2019 goals for me: convert 2 Astra Militarum Chimeras to Hellhounds, build Slaves of Darkness Age of Sigmar Force. That's workable. Nice. Martin Dix wants to finish his Ogres, finish his Blood Bowl for Season 2. David Ellis says, "Sup peeps, hello," and the amazing JC says, "Ho, hi, yo, hi, hello, hi." Ralph says 2019 goals bring my Stormcast army to 2,500 points. Finish my kill team for Admech, Orcs, Genestealer Cults before buying any more plastic. That's a list, Ralph. That's a good old list. Dr. Octopus, 2019 goals are paint more, hopefully buy less, and get started with Age of Sigmar. Well, you'll be welcome over to the Age of Sigmar crowd. As you know, I tend to do both, but we'll go. I heard Age of Sigmar Tony as I logged in. Anything else heading to GT Heat 3? Anyone else? You know what? I am going to try and pop up the old motorway and call in on some of these. I'm running up and down the motorway at the moment anyway, visiting a relative. So it's a good old excuse to actually make me go up and down the motorway to visit the relative more, I think. And then I can, you know, go into Warhammer World and pop in and see what's happening as well. Bluffer says, my bro is getting Gloom Gits for Age of Sigmar, and I love Skaven, but waiting to update the Skaven rulebook. We'll tell you. And Artem Tritech says, are you playing both Age of Sigmar and 40k? What do you like more? Yes, I'm playing both Age of Sigmar and 40k. What do I like more? If Jack was going to answer that question, he's not here at the moment, but that's who I'm working with the doubles tournament for Age of Sigmar. He would definitely say Age of Sigmar. He's absolutely fallen head over heels for Age of Sigmar. He loves it. For myself, that's a tough call, I have to say. I think at the moment I'm enjoying Age of Sigmar more, but that's because we've had some really fun games and kind of narrative-based games, and I think some of the scene around here is a little bit more relaxed when it comes to Age of Sigmar. 40k is very a competitive scene, and I think there's a natural slant to that, so I've enjoyed that. Saying that, I played a game recently with Eldar and absolutely loved it, and without a doubt said it's certainly one of the best 40k games I've played ever, any version. It was just a great fun game. So this was Eldar versus oh crikey, was it Death Guard? It was Eldar versus Death Guard. I was just trying to think whether it was Death Guard or Nurgle, but it was indeed Death Guard, and it was great fun. Had a lot of giggles in that game. So, in fact, actually, it's going to be uploaded to Premium on the website as well. So if you want to check that out, it was a bat rep we were filming. And normally when we do bat reps, you kind of remember you're doing a bat rep, but that game we kind of forgot the bat rep was happening and just had a whole bunch of fun. David says, can't remember if I let you guys know, but keep your eyes open on Warhammer TV Twitch stream on the 22nd of Friday, and you'll see me with my Imperial Knights taking on the mates Necrons. Awesome, that's great news. I will look out for that. So that's 22nd of February. Reminder to everybody, do check out David Ellis and no doubt his filthy Imperial Knights. Sam Stokes says, pick me up on the way. Absolutely, Sam. 12 Neef, 2090 goals are to paint and play more Underworlds and play more Skirmish. You really do like that small form factor game, don't you, 12 Neef? But I'm kind of with you on that. I did treat myself to the Gits, the little goblin team for Underworld. So my plan was to try and get those painted in time to come and meet you. So that's still a plan. But if not, we can always do a skirmish game. And Kim Arn Olsen Omer says, I think we are more people who play 40k than here than Age of Sigmar. Yes, I think that's probably right. I mean, that's probably right globally, isn't it? But Sigmar's certainly gaining momentum. For me, right now, I'm 40k wise absolutely in love with the sneak previews for Genestealer Cults. That's looking like an incredible army. The sculpts are brilliant. I know that, you know, early, I'm not quite sure whether the latest sculpts are done by him, but Darren Latham did a lot of the early Genestealer Cult sculpts. Super talented chap. If you haven't checked out it's not Stormcast, sorry, it's Voxcast, which is the Warhammer TV official podcast. Episode 3, I think, is Darren Latham. Go check out the interview with him. Incredibly talented fellow. I love his sculpts anyway. He's done some of my favourite models. So it's the latest Genestealer Cult stuff just looks mind-bendingly brilliant. So I've got painted. I've just done a quick count because I'm working on my tournaments list now. Painted and ready to play with 1,500 points worth of Genestealer Cult. Probably less than 3-4 decent painting sessions away from being about 2,000 points, because things are built half painted. Just for instance, like a lot of the vehicles just require weathering just to get to a final piece. So my plan is certainly this weekend to kind of finish off the Genestealer Cult is the hope. So yeah, really excited because I'm hoping I can have that sort of 2,000 point list just ready for when the new codex lands. And as soon as the new models come out, I'm going to go crazy over them. Although I've got to kind of pace myself. That's my airbrush compressor that's just kicking in. And I can do one of two things. I can scrabble around on the floor and try and turn it off, or just continue talking through it and hope that it stops topping up its pressure anytime soon. I was airbrushing about 25 minutes ago, so yeah, anyway, typical, isn't it? Forgot to turn it off. Right. What else we got? My goal is not to buy anything and finish painting everything, says Slippy Tiger. I love that. I love that lie we tell ourselves as hobbyists, but there you go. You know what? We're doing really well at the moment. We are storming through armies. Let me have a quick look at what's on the desk. We'll talk a little bit about what we're working on at the moment, both myself and Jack, and what our plan is for the tournament. And then we'll come back to the chat and see what everyone has to say on what's going on. But don't forget, just put @Wargamer Online so I can spot your comments and let me know what you're doing this year. Okay, you know what? That compressor just isn't going to stop, is it? As if by magic. I'm gutted that they've nerfed the new Chaos character already, changing a special rule to only affect raptors with the Black Legion keyword now instead of all raptors. Not surprising, but disappointing. And Bluffer says this means that existing openings in them, such as those questions that are created by Windows, doors, bullet holes, nerf, block, line of sight. This rule does not mean the player creates walls with non-existent. I doubt as they were. So I think that's regarding the. This means. You know what, that's it. In ITC events, sorry, it's a two-part comment. In ITC events using any missions, the following modification to rule type terrain should be used. Ruins for this event. The bottom level walls of all ruins are considered to block line of sight, even if this means existing openings in them, such as, you know, doors, etc., windows. Does not mean that the player creates walls when none existed, if in doubt as to where. Waiting for that goddamn fleshy to release, says Moogie Pie. Battle Tome no longer stocked, so hyped especially for the new character. Oh, well, you know, define these barriers, clarify before the games. So we've got this mixed thing now of talking a little bit about what's going on in Sigmar and what's going on in 40k. Let's look at those two things as two separate things. So, right, line of sight on the bottom floor for terrain. I believe, Bluffer, that year, if I remember rightly, you're not too happy about that. We've actually, certainly off Battle Report games, we've played bottom floor as line of sight blocking. Just because, you know, the whole any part of a model sees any part of a model just made it very, very difficult to, you know, put down effective terrain that created a tactical element that required you to either, you know, use line of sight blocking or benefit from line of sight gaining. So we've played that rule anyway in a lot of games, and I have to say I don't think it's that huge. You know, it stops. You know, I kind of like the idea. I saw a classic example of where it goes wrong for me. That, you know, shoot from any point of the vehicle, which was, you know, there was an Eldar grav tank sort of parked behind a building, and they tilted the turret so it was sideways out. So just the point of the you know, point of the weapon was out there. I mean, to be honest, even with that new rule, it still is in effect. But I just think there's work to be done with terrain, and I can see what ITC are trying to do. They're trying to do something with it. But personally, I think that's one for a bounce back to GW. They've engaged really well with the tournament scene. I think they need to have a long, hard sit down and have a think about the line terrain. But, you know, we've seen chapter approved now for 2018. That was a late 18 release. It's going to be in effect throughout the year, so I can't see anything coming fast on terrain. So I can appreciate what they're trying to do. To be honest, You know, I'm not that close to the 40k tournament scene that to know what a major impact that would have. Like I say, we've played it like that anyway, just to be able to create line of sight and a line of sight element to the game. But feel free to add to the chat, and we'll maybe come back to that shortly. Right. What else have we got going off? I finally got a live show, says Dave Dog. Nasty old YouTube unsubscribed me despite being a regular fan. Well, I do apologise for that, Dave. My channel, or rather, should Wargamer Online, the channel, was reviewed for bogus subscriptions, if you like. Which is a regular thing that they do with YouTube channels. And what it does is to stop YouTube channels buying subscriptions, you know, because for like a few £100 you can buy 10,000 subscribers. But, you know, YouTube aren't very happy about that because they don't really exist, and then they're promoting channels whose content haven't really gained a proper audience. So they do an audit on channels, and, you know, I've seen channels with 60, 70,000 subscribers, you know, dump 12,000 subscribers overnight when that audit happens. When we had the audit, we lost 3 subscribers, so I was pretty pleased with that. It looks like, you know, the organic growth has been real, you know, there's not many bots in there or anything like that. So I'm pretty pleased with it, but maybe you got just caught up in one of those 3 purges, I'm afraid, Dave, so apologies for that. I do think they run a bunch of rules now that if you haven't been along to one of the shows for a while, you can get auto-subscribed, but doesn't make any sense if you're watching on a regular basis. There you go. Let's move on from that, though. We were going to talk a little bit about what's going on with the Age of Sigmar scene, then. So, from an Age of Sigmar, let's cover that first before we get into 40k. Myself and Jack are signing up to most likely the June doubles tournament. I think that's the one we're aiming for, and I think that's realistic given I've got quite a lot of models to get painted for the Iden of Deepkin. I think I'm looking at 20 odd thralls, I think, and possibly another 10 or 20 reavers, I believe, is in that list. No, it's not. It's just 10 reavers and 6 of the eel creatures or something like that. Either way, it's enough models to be done. So it seems realistically, you know, not only have I got to get them painted and then do some test games and really get to know the army before you show up to a tournament. So I don't really like the idea of showing up to a tournament with an army you've only played once or twice. I want to get at least 10 games in there really now. I've learned that from the Fire Slayers, the very first tournament we did where I barely understood them. You know, I think I'd played 2 games when we showed up to the first tournament compared to the second tournament, where, to be honest, I had to think much less about what the army actually did, and there I could think more about what the actual tactics I wanted to employ was. So the plan is, myself and Jack are doing a joint elf army, basically, for want of a better word, elves. I'm doing Iden of Deepkin, and Jack is doing Daughters of Cain. And what we've decided to do, and I put a post up on the community page about this, is we are going to theme them as a proper set of allies. So there is some lore in Iden of Deepkin, which says basically that, you know, the Volturnus, the king, has you know, done a treaty with Marathi at times, so they've worked together. So I like the fact that it's in the lore, it's in the books, which is nice. What we wanted to do is we didn't want to give them all the same colour scheme, because, you know, I think the idea of 2 armies joining together doesn't mean they just say, I know, let's just daub some paint on our armour and make it look the same. So we had to think about how we could kind of make them look like one army without sort of necessarily having identical colour schemes or a basis of colour scheme. And we've done that essentially by the bases. We're going to work the bases up quite a bit, and the idea is if you can imagine progressing up from you know, wave fronts to dunes. You've got that kind of, you know, wave fronts to surf, to wet sand, to dry sand, and then into dry sand with tufts of grass, the idea of progressing up the beach. And in many respects, that's what we've decided to do with the bases. Some of them, you know, for instance, the aspect of the storm is going to be literally coming in with a surf, with the waves crashing forward and those kind of things. Whereas, you know, Marathi is, you know, on sort of semi-dry sand with, or, you know, a little bit of wet sand with a rock pool on her base. So there's a, you know, the tide has receded away from that and leaving a little bit of a rock pool. And then, say for instance, the snakes, which I can't remember the name of them, but the archer snakes for the daughters of Cain will be you know, on dry sand, so we can kind of do the little snaky pattern of the dry sand mounding up against them and those kind of things. So that's the plan. We've started working on a whole bunch of stuff today, so I tell you what, here's a good example of how the two bases, I'm going to kind of cut to the camera and show how the two bases work together. So I'm not sure, have I set this up correctly? Oh, close enough. Here we go. So let's see if we can just zoom in on these a little bit. Okay, so for instance, this is Marafi's base, and what we've done with Marafi's base is, and excuse the black prime, as you can see that's the original part of the base, but we've continued this sand texture. These two little areas here are going to be, there's an area there and there's an area there, so that's an example of the rock pool, if you like. But what we've also got is the, you know, the crazy little fish that swim through the ether sea as they come out the water, are kind of following the daughters of Cain up the beach. And at the same time we've got little things like the corals and those kind of things on the base. I'm seeing if I can get that. So yeah, you've got a coral, and we've even got on the steps, if you can see this is some of the base decorations from Iden of Deepkin. So in here we've got these little Deepkin bottles which are very distinct, this pattern, and these little bits of bottles which we get. I think we leaned a few other things around, so there's a little bit of, here's something, so from the side of the Leviathan, I think. So what we've done to achieve this, what we've had to do really is to kind of almost build those armies side by side, because every spare piece of base decoration I've got and every spare piece of base decoration he's got, we've essentially been swapping bitbox. We've been pulling bits out of each other's bitbox. Here's just on the side of there, as you can see, this is the base work for the aspect of the sea. So this is the Eidolon, and that's actually just the straightforward base. But my plan is like with the Marafe base, we'll build this texture up here, and then this entire thing here is going to be a little rock pool. So, you know, they're actually quite comparable when you see them side by side. It will make a lot of sense. What was interesting was actually the original plastic texture on Marafe is very, very similar to the texture on Eidolon, so which is really nice. I mean, one thing we've looked at doing is adding some pebbles and those kind of things, so we've got these pebbles that cross over between the bases. But that's the plan, basically. It's all going to be about uniting the two schemes by using the base design. There's a few other things we've done. So for instance, some of the characters are carrying, you know, like a little bottle from the Iden of Deepkin or something like that, you know, clearly a gift given to the characters. So there's some really cute little decorative bottles, again styled very much like that sort of concave metal work that is now sort of synonymous with the Iden of Deepkin. So the idea of that, some of the daughters of Cain carrying bottles around like that are clearly being given as they collaborate together. That's the plan. What I have to say, I am completely in love with. Yeah, let's just get this up on screen if it will. Here we go. So this model is just insane. I absolutely love it. So it doesn't fit on, does it? I'll have to zoom out a little bit. Wow, I thought I broke the button then. So this is amazing. Yes, of course, it's built-in components. So I've been working on, you know, that's going to be painted separately. This is going to be painted separately. Really, really pleased with how well this is constructed. They've made it very, very simple to work on components. They really have made life incredibly easy for you. So I dare say there's a bit of thought, a bit of going into that. This is a classic example of what I mean by some of the base decorations. So we've got little nets and those kind of things, and you know, these little bags and bottles, and that's what we're sharing between the bases. Thank you very much, whoever's just subscribed. I'm afraid the notifications aren't working at the moment, so I've still got a few technical issues I need to resolve, but thank you very much, whoever that is. Absolutely loving that model. Of course, everyone is separate at the moment. Everyone is on my little painted thimbles, so I can get them painted up. So all the crew and everything is separate. Most of the There you go. Most of the crews and stuff will be painted completely separate along with the animals, so all the big stuff will probably be airbrushed to a degree, and then a lot of the crew and stuff will be done separately. By the way, I built 20 of these Reavers this weekend. They are insanely beautiful models. If you haven't had a close look at these Reavers, they're incredible, and each of the 10 sculpts comes with an alternative. So if you've not had a look at those models up close, do check them out. They're incredible. I have to say though, building 20 of them all at once, you know, the alternate, what I did was like work on, you know, model number 1 original and alternate sculpt, model number 2 original alternate sculpt, and went through the entire 2 boxes of 10. I was utterly broken by the end of it. I said to myself, I am never going to attempt to build 20 models in one go again, and then rather foolishly lined up 20 thralls. So there's 20 thralls, and there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 from the instructions, duplicated again, and the last 4 in the thralls are alternate sculpts to those 4 basically, so you do swap some of the kit over. These are just shared components, so things like the stuff that goes on the back and the shoulders. But yeah, I can't believe I've set myself up for it again, but I did. I don't know why. Clearly gone insane. Let's catch up with the chat. So yes, that's the idea. The idea is to get those, 2 armies, when you actually lay them out side by side, when you see recurring themes. I think one of the strongest key elements is going to be, the wee little fish swimming around on the Daughters of Cain. Is it Daughters of Cain or Daughters of Darkness? Or Darkness of Cain. You know what? Daughters of Cain. I've been right all along, thank goodness. I had some doubts there. I think seeing those little things on the Daughters of Cain are really going to punch out, that the 2 armies have worked together. And the main challenge I've got is the Daughters of Cain iconography is basically sort of little elven-esque bits of terrain. So it's finding stuff I can use on the Iden of Deepkin bases that I can carry over. Now luckily enough we had a spare box of witch elves, so I'm essentially stealing some of the terrain from the witch elves, but that doesn't give you a hell of a lot. That's 10 models out of 40 troop that I need to do. So whilst I can do some bits, I can't do all. So I'm trying to work out, what I can do with the bases to kind of, marry some of that daughter stuff back in. And right now, I have to say, the main thing I've got is the idea of the Marathi base. If I can just reach across, excuse me a second, folks. So if I could, this is Jack's Marathi. Hold on a second, I'll see if I can get this up on. So this is Jack's Marathi. It's still work in progress, so he's not there by any means. He's got a lot of work to do on this, but let's just go a little bit wider there so you can see that he's working on that. There is another wing somewhere, by the way, but he left the wing on so he could kind of paint the detail on Marathi herself. I think he's doing quite a good job on this, actually. I quite like the golds, the metallics he's done, but there's a lot of work to do on the scales yet. But as you can see, we've got this twisted column here. The idea of that, if we drop Marathi onto this here, I hope I don't break it. There you go. If we drop Marathi onto a base, as you can see, we've got this broken column going over the stairwell. So that's that kind of, this marble column, etc. I think that's the thing that I can play on at the moment. And to that end, I've been sort of 3D printing some little twisted columns and stuff like that I can use, or, snap a piece off and just use a small piece of that or something like that across a base. So wasn't really expecting it to snap when I was going to illustrate it snapping, but there you go. So that's the plan. I think it's to a degree it's about that stonework, and the idea of that stonework, we're going to kind of cover the stone in moss, algae, green stuff. We're going to cover it in green stuff and seaweed. So the idea is rather than it being a deserty terrain, this is like the you know, the Gloomtide ship that, you know, is a big part of the Idoneth background. So the idea is that, you know, they don't just come out the sea, they kind of bring aspects of the sea with them. So these shipwrecks suddenly appear over the fields and those kind of things, and they become centres of power and strength for the Idoneth Deepkin. I mean, interestingly enough, they detail the Gloomtime shipwreck as, I can't remember the name of it, but it's, you know, auspicious thingamabobby. It'd be interesting. It kind of, the way they describe it in the rule is as if they've got ideas for alternate sculpts for that. So I do think also this sort of, you know, semi-Atlantis terrain covered in seaweed, you know, kind of draped over the side of it, that's just come out, and that's what Maraf is wrapping herself around. Rather than dry stone, it's going to be wet stone with seaweed dripping down it. And then if I can take that design key and use it on the basis of the Idoneth Deepkin, I think that's the thing that can marry the two together. So, for instance, probably one of the biggest deals, this is actually just, you know, the standard Little King. Let's just get that on there. But I'm also doing the Volturna sculpt as well. And the idea is, you know, right now that's just got, let me just do that. You can see it rather than get it up on the camera. So lots of little tails scribbling on that. You know, the idea would be to get one of these and kind of wrap, you know, that around it, almost in homage to the Marafi sculpt. So that's the plan. I mean, the other thing is the aspect of the aspect of the storm. I'm just looking at people correcting my algo. The aspect of the storm, I think I want to do kind of almost crashing in there and breaking bits of masonry off, as well as fish flying out of the waves and those kind of things. So, oh, crikey, I think that pretty much covers it. But maybe we should catch up on the chat. And how are we doing for time? Well, it's about halfway through. I'm going to talk a little bit about Eldar. I'm really annoyed the fact I haven't got... okay. I've missed it now. But anyway, thank you, whoever just subscribed. I'm so sorry you didn't get a shout out, but it looks like the technology's back now. I hadn't noticed it was never actually missing. I think I'd accidentally turned it off for some inexplicable reason. But, you know, who can say? Who can say with me? Right, let's catch up with the chat and see what people have to say. Oh my goodness, there's been quite was the ITT the one where some tables are unpainted polystyrene terrain? There's a whole bunch of discussion about the ITC. I'm sure they will this year. Finally calls a live show. I think that was David Newhook. I think yeah, okay, that was the discussion about that. So I think we're pretty much up to there. True, but I would like shooting at building rules. That would be more realistic. I like add toughness wounds. I'm kind of with you on that one. The ability to destroy buildings, even, you know, the idea you can't destroy a ruin, but I think you can make a ruin even more of a mess. But you can see why they do it. They do it to keep the game moving faster and you targeting each other, rather than, you know, if buildings collapse easily, no one would use them, and all they become is an area of the board that everybody walks around. David says, the Age of Sigmar scene, I need my angel-themed highish elves. Oh, come on. Yeah, too right. We're looking forward to those. And Scott says, and hello, Scott. Hello, Phil. Go back to guard using third-party heads for infantry. Going for a World War I British feel. Going back to guard. Oh, man, what a great idea. What a great idea. Okay, Dave says, I've got 120 grops, 5 fanatics, 3 fellboards of trolls, and a partridge, and a few spider fang. I don't know what to get next. My wallet will not stretch. What have we got? 120 grots, 5 goblin fanatics, fellboards of trolls. Save your pennies and get the Gobblepalooza. Without a doubt, the Gobblepalooza is just the coolest set of models. So I honestly don't think there's any decision to be made. Trunk off hag, says Moogie Pie. Old Bretonian men at arms. Oh yeah, that'd be really cool. Bluffer says, I'm waiting for GW to make a pack of 10 giant rat box or something, so I can buy my 360 plus giant rats clan molder full of it. That's disgraceful. I always wondered whether you could do a Tyrannid army that was based just completely around the spore mines. You know, spore mines and 1 or 2 characters. So you just have like 1,500 points worth of spore mines, and I think you get 5 for like 50 points, don't you, or something ridiculous. It'd just be so much fun, wouldn't it? Just these things constantly floating around. As soon as you trigger one, the rest just flock in and blow up. You couldn't do anything with it, but it'd be great to see, wouldn't it? Right, where were we? David also watched Aquaman today. It totally spiked my interest in Ideneth. Yeah, I really like the lore behind Ideneth. I know that Sam did a video on the Ideneth lore, didn't he, a while ago? I really like it. I've really enjoyed reading the Battle Tome. And it's a bit like the Gloomspite Gits. That was a great read. And I still keep picking that up and having to flip through it as well. So it's nice that some of these things are turning into good reads as well. Okay, drop me the rumours. Oh, Light Elves. Are they myths or fact for 2019? Light Elves, myth or fact? I'm going to say fact. I think towards the end of the year we will see a Slaanesh/Light Elves release. Slaanesh is going to escape. Dooby Slaaneshi army everywhere, and he is going to escape from she. I'm not quite sure at the moment which gender it is in. It doesn't really matter, does it, in Sigmar? I've got a feeling it's a different gender in Sigmar than it is in the other, in 40k, but I could be wrong. Anyway, they're going to escape. It's the Light Elves that are going to chase them down or run away from, in which case you will see those, hopefully. Moogie Price is unlikely. I'm calling it right near the end of the year. It's kind of funny, isn't it? Because when you look back at the Warhammer, Games Workshop did a video at the end of the year where they literally went through every release from January to February, and in one respect it felt like there was an absolute huge load of stuff coming out, which in truth there was. But then when you look at how much kind of came out per system, you're like, actually, yeah, it doesn't take long, it doesn't take that many releases to fill up a 12-month schedule. So it might not happen in 2019. You soon throw in a few releases like, we know Skaven. We know, hopefully, a revisit to Flesh Eater Court. So by the time you get to all of that, and you kind of go, well, that's going to take us, possibly by the time they've kind of expanded both of those out and moved forward, that's going to take us, potentially to the middle of the year, by the time you tag some 40k releases around all of that as well. So who knows? All I can say is I kind of hope so. What I'd really like to see in 2019 in the Sigmar front, though, is I would like to see a Free People's release. Bring Bretonnia back. What's interesting about Free People's and Bretonnia and all the rest is, whilst they're more or less absent in terms of rules, and clearly from an aesthetic point of view they're part of its past, they're incredibly prevalent in the stories around Sigmar, which I don't know whether that's just thrown in for the fans or, it's just great. We're listening to a bunch of the Hammeral short stories over the weekend while I was building 1,001 Reavers. What was really nice to hear was, you got the whatever they're called, the Lion Guard or something, an elf who's a Lion Guard. You had, a standard Dwarden in there. It's just, this kind of like, and they even had Free People's, which was all in the pomp and ceremony of, let's face it, the Bretonnia kit. So they're described in the narrative, but their absence in terms of advancing the rules for them or the lore for them. And in many respects they're talked about as a relic, but I think they've kind of, with the timeline advance in Sigmar, they've created a space to put some love back into some of those factions. But we all know what it's about. This is about IP, and they need to protect their intellectual property, and those old sculpts and styles don't really do that. So it's a shame. I'd love to see it too. But there we go. Does anybody know if Blackstone Fortress is due any expansion sets? Yes, it is. It was named over the New Year's, wasn't it? As things to look forward to in 2019. And I think if you can bear the noisy microphone... by the way, I'd pull those videos down and try and sort the audio if I could. But if I do that, then they kind of lose all the position in the channel and stuff, and it's a pain up the bum. So I'll see what I can do. You can kind of do little bits on YouTube at the YouTube end of it. So I'm going to see if I can run some filters and tidy that noisy mic up. But if so, we certainly did a look at 2019 releases for Games Workshop, and we talked a little bit about it then. Whew, I'm slowly losing my place in the chat. Team name Phil and Jack. Shark Week. Sharknado. Shaka Kane. Sharka Kane. Shaka Khan. Okay, I've lost it now. Dave says, no rumours other than Teclis and Tyrion have been mentioned a few times and trying to make them in the fluff. I'm not expecting them, but I'm still hyped for the possibility. Whilst you say there's no rumours, I absolutely agree there is no rumours. But we have to keep reminding ourselves of the Pantheon illustration, which as yet, the Pantheon illustration showed Marathi, showed Alariel, and showed Tyrion and Teclis with their wonderful helmets. And Sam's not going to forgive me for the one I've forgotten. Sam, if you're still out there in the chat, tell me which one I've forgotten. Mortarion? Definitely not. Gloomsky army will work like Bretonian army. Flesh eaters, then Skaven, Squig riders, and shooters. We're all just shouting things at each other now. Don't compare Gits with noblemen. I'm sure by the 10-year anniversary, all the bugs will be ironed out, Phil. Thank you very much, Furious George. Really dynamic minis, says Amit. I'm wondering if he's talking about some of the ones I'm showing. Oh my goodness, I'm miles behind on the chat. I am just going to have to jump forward a little bit. I hadn't scrolled down in ages. I thought I was doing so well. I pronounce it algae. Algae, says David Doug. My brother out there, who was definitely sciencey type thing, it is... he used to say algae, I'm sure, isn't it? Boogie Pie, I think Age of Sigmar is the wrong setting for Bretts now. There you go. We're some agreement there. Humans, free girls, and upgrades if we get this year. Okay, let's jump to some of the Wargamer Online questions. Wargamer Online have considered this Spore Mine strat in a 40k doubles with mass biovores with minus to hit, so they spawn more. There you go. Somebody, I knew I wouldn't be the only person to have thought about it. It would be fun to do. Can you imagine painting them though? Conquest models built. Back to painting my 20-man Poxwater unit. Tough going, but I've committed to finishing them this month for my gaming club, Tale of Gamers. Well done, Daryl. You push on, sir. Can't remember what was in Conquest in the last release, but it was looking pretty good. He's still the Dark Prince in Sigmar. Slanesh is both man and woman, but not to both. There you go. Ralph says, I think we'll see a free guild battle tome. i.e. ex-Bretonian in early 2020, but not before. There you go. Ralph's made the prediction, so we'll put that into the list. I think I'm going to start a page up on Wargamer Online where we can put predictions in, and we'll see. We'll run a competition. If somebody gets it right, any prediction that's over 12 months away and they get it right, we'll get some kind of prize. Keep pestering DW. Sisters of Battle are getting plastic releases and overhaul. Next petition, Tomb Kings. Man, Tomb Kings were nice. They are Malarian. Thank you very much, Daryl. Yes, I'm aware Mortarion is the wrong universe. Or the right universe, the wrong era. New Astra Militarum paint idea, making a whole army of regiment Skillian Fusiliers. They dress in the early 1800s. I agree with you. Oh man, that would be quite good. Centillion Fusiliers. Is that the... Oh, help me out here. Is that the big red and white screen? Carrion King for Flesh Eater's Court. Nice one, Moogie Pie. Not far off it out, I'm afraid. Right, let's move on to chat a little bit about what's going on in the 40k then. So I mentioned that a lot of the effort will be at the first quarter of the year was going to be pointed all towards this Age of Sigmar doubles tournament. The reason we're saying that's aiming for the June doubles tournament, assuming there is one in June this year. I'm not sure they've announced all their dates yet, and if they have, blast, I need to get on it and book my slots. But there will be a focus on some of the 40k as well. Jack is turning to his 40k, and so am I. And Jack's chosen an interesting sort of faction, I think, in terms to reawaken. So Jack in the past has done Nurgle Demons, a little bit of Death Guard, Astra Militarum, Space Wolves, and I've got a feeling that kind of covers it. Tyranids was a shared army. So, rather surprisingly, I thought Jack was going to kind of dust down his old Space Wolves and give it a go. And rather surprisingly, we've been going through his Astra Militarum lists. So, we're going to do, I think, some of the city battles, basically. This is going to be Genestealer Cult versus Astra Militarum. He's even talking about completely rebasing his entire army for it to look more sort of industrial, which I think is a bold and brave move. You know, because most of it's tanks and stuff, it's actually not a big a deal as you think. Yes, there's a lot of troops in his army. I think he's got at least 50 or 60 guardsmen, and then he's got a few other conscripts and stuff like that. So there's some work to be done, certainly. But yes, he's talking about a complete sort of dust down and a more sympathetic basing to kind of industrial and urban environment. That will work very nicely with the Genestealer Cult army. So we're going to do kind of a whole bunch of games on the 40k for both battle reports, etc. But we also kind of figured that would make a nice doubles army. And no, it's not an optimized doubles army, but it would be kind of cool to have essentially Jack's force just representing, the planetary defense force that one way or another under leadership of the Genestealer Cult are now fighting together. So, of course, as far as the battle tome's concerned, yes, you can field certain Astra Militarum forces, but we thought it'd be kind of cool to actually just have the Astra Militarum Codex and the Genestealer Cult Codex. And do that as a doubles game. So fighting as one force, but on the two separate rule systems, would be pretty cool. And I know that from a good guy, bad guy kind of faction, that doesn't quite work. I don't think it matters thematically. I think the army would look pretty cool. I don't think they're the strongest things to put together as far as a doubles tournament, but I would appreciate some thoughts on that from the 40k viewers out there. Is that the kind of thing that can work, or essentially we're kind of taking to the table two very similar factions? I'd like to think not, because I think with the Genestealer Cult we will be seeing, I can focus a little bit more on mobility, he can focus a little bit more on backline and heavy fielding, heavy defense fielding and those kind of things. So I think potentially they could complement each other. Some kind of heavy back gun wall sort of slamming down munitions from above, and all the time the Genestealer Cult popping up and doing damage. So I hope that works. We'll see. But that's the plan. You'll be seeing a lot more of the Genestealer Cult, certainly, and the Astra Militarum on the channel, either via the Facebook and stuff. Certainly in a few battle reports as we try some of this stuff out, either playing against each other or playing doubles. And then finally, that brings me to, oh, please don't turn off screens. That brings me to the kind of chat about the some of the channel stuff then. So we are filming again tomorrow night. We've had a little bit of break over Christmas, which is only right. We've done a whole bunch of editing over Christmas. There's about 6 bat reports now ready to go live on Premium. I'm thinking I'm making a one live tonight, so look out for that. I think we've got a Speed Freaks game that's ready to go, along with a couple of other stuff. There was an Age of Sigmar game, Flesh Eater Courts versus Sylvaneth going up, until I realised the edit wasn't complete, and I just thought the edit was complete, so need to sort that out. But that will be certainly up by the end of this week as well. So we're going to get Speed Freaks and Age of Sigmar up on Premium this week. So look out for those, and at the same time there's a couple of little bits I'm going to pop up on YouTube, and you will have noticed probably last night I just threw up a little game of the Blitz Bowl sort of thing, which was a funny old game between Mark and Jack, and yeah, rather some humorous debate in that one, which I kind of left in the editor left in actually, because it was just actually good fun to listen to, really. But that's in there as that's certainly a less of a competitive thing and more of a here's a couple of guys having a bit of fun playing football and arguing with each other. Oh, we got a few predictions in there before I call an end to the show, because believe it or not, my working day hasn't finished. I managed to get home just in time to get the show together, but I'm afraid I've got to go back to work as soon as I wind up on this show, so I'm not going to run too late tonight. But let's just check out some of those predictions. We have a Free Guild Battle Tome, Codex Cadians, come on. David Ellis says, in fact, what I'd like from 40k is my Grey Knights to get some love. I've been loyal to them since early 4th edition, when they were garbage, then enjoyed the edition as top tier, back to garbage. Whoa, 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 whoa. I thought Grey Knights got a whole bunch of love in Chapter Approved. What happened, Davis? You correct me. I thought that, you know, GW, when they were talking about the Grey Knights, they'd said they'd done some nice stuff with them. Or am I badly informed? Lover says, I predict that Bretonium will come back within the next 10 years, but not be called Bretonia. Yeah, I still come back to, I mentioned that, in the main rule book for Age of Sigmar, flip through those pages, come across those human designs, which in one of the latest videos they said, go to those for inspiration in paint schemes. And even in the latest White Dwarf, if you haven't seen the latest White Dwarf, get it. If you don't plan to subscribe, don't care, get the latest White Dwarf anyway. There's some really good stuff in there where it talks about different colour schemes, how you can paint your army to be, if you like, themed around the various different realms. So do check it out, because I do think we will see, hopefully, some free people from realms with some very, very cool stuff. I won't be surprised if we don't see the dark. Oh, Simon, hey, thanks for just subscribing. I wouldn't be surprised if we see the latest Underworld faction, which is going up for pre-order this weekend, I think. I won't be surprised if we see that developed out into a battle tome as well. Grey Knight's got a few discounts, like Necrons in Chapter Approved, I think, but not amazing. Well, I'm sorry, David, there you go. A lot of points drops. Everybody else get the same drops, so just the same as before. Yeah, I feel that actually. It was one of those like global adjustments, wasn't it? That felt, it's like, this could be really exciting. Wow, I've dropped like 25% of my army, and then you look and find out everybody's dropped 25%. So what that basically meant was just 25% more models on the table. No bad thing, because I like to bring more models. Frank Storm says, hello Frank Storm, you have joined us with only 4 minutes of the show to go. So Frank, this is what I need from you. I need you to tell me what your plan is for 2019, all things hobby. What are you going to get done? And I'll give you one final shout out before the show closes down. I myself are, you know what, I don't know what you guys think to this kind of Marathi thing. I think Jack's done a solid job on this, bless him. So he's still got some work to do, but I really love that Marathi model. Early days yet, I know, but I really like how he's going with that. Oh, big win for me. You know what I really like? And I'm surprised by it, because I didn't think I would. Let's get this up. Back up to the desk. This little fella. I didn't think I'd like these sharks. I'd seen them before, wasn't particularly impressed with them. I don't know why. I don't know whether it was the paint schemes that people had done, or more importantly, the paint schemes that they were advertised with. Weirdly enough, I've kind of fallen in love with the model. I love the little saddle mounts and stuff like that. It annoys me that the little bag sort of overlaps the rear fin there, but that's not the end of the world. And then I really love these armor pieces, so I want to kind of make more of that. So I think I am going to be kind of, from your perspective, tilting the sharks a little bit and having them skimming across. I wish I could have put a bit more of bend in the tail and stuff. I think it'd be really hard to modify those things, but I was super surprised by that. Right, really good question from Dave Dole coming in. Daughters of Cain says, Frank Storm. Oh, is that what you're planning on doing, or is that what you hope to do, Frank? You let me know. If it's what you're planning on doing, then you are not alone. Jack is just about to go into the last 2 units of his 2,000 points worth of Daughters of Cain. So he's starting his last 2 units whilst still polishing off his wonderful little Marathi, which he's been working on. So there's work to be done on that, but he's getting there. Right, anybody here use war paints from the EU? So, do you mean war paints or do you mean war colour? They do an amazing layer base paints, even do retro paints that metal of the earth. I think you mean war colour rather than war paints, because there's the army painters and there's war paints and then there's war colour. But I think you probably mean war colour, says Ralph, and Ralph says yes, I do. They have equivalent of brown ink. I mean, I could just grab some artist inks, but the Citadel one was perfect. I love it. I can't really get away from my desk. Right. Well, the wonderful chap at Warcolours actually sent me 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, about 60 of the paints to try out, which is amazing. I'll be doing a look through those paints, just like what's arrived, and just playing with them on a palette so you guys can see how they behave and stuff like that. They're very interesting. They work very different to how Citadel paints work. They work different to how Scale 75 paints work. They're very much more like a paint that you layer up and glaze with. You know, they're not strong, solid colours. It's all about transparent layers that you build up. My plan and my challenge to myself, because the wonderful chap at Warcolours was so generous in sending me so many paints, is to paint my entire Island of Deepkin army with Warcolours. So when you see any of the tutorials that come out for the Island of Deepkin, I'm terrified by this, by the way, because I've put so much work into building this army. I definitely need to buy a few more Warcolour paints. There's a few colours I'm missing, so I'm going to buy them. I'm not, you know, that's great. But I am going to be using them both for hand painting and airbrushing. So we'll see. What I've seen of them so far is I really, really, really like them. There is some very intriguing colours and effects contained within the entire range. So there you go. Oh, Vince Ventura Truilla sold me on the Warcolour paint, so I brought a load. Not tried them out there. Well, there you go. You cannot get better than that, can you? So yes, that's my challenge. I am going to paint the entire Island of Deepkin army with all of their wonderful, crazy sculpts. And by the way, I know I could have done this component-wise, but somebody check that model out. What? That's insane. And it's actually quite difficult to do component because of where the components split. But there you go. Maybe I could have left the arm off, but the arm's not really in the way of the model, and maybe I should have left the fish off, but that meant, you know, I don't know. I'm gonna have a lot of fun painting that model. They're incredible models. I'm really looking forward to it. There's some amazing effects in metallics and stuff like that as well, so I'm quite excited about that. There you go. I think at 1 minute past 10, given I've got work to do tonight, that I'm going to call it a night. Thank you very much to everybody who joined me tonight for this waffling along. I hope you've enjoyed it. It was a bit of a rambling one, but I didn't have much time to prep for tonight's show, so I kind of figured some shows better than no show. I'm not sure that logic actually applies. I'm sure a really, really bad show is probably worse than no show. But hopefully you didn't find tonight's show as really bad, and you look forward to what's coming from Wargamer Online over the next 12 months. I hope that you have a fantastic 12 months, and I'd like to see you at some of these tournaments and events. So if I start posting where we're going to be, when we're going to be, it will be great to meet up with some of you wonderful people. Certainly as well, that might not be the only event that's happening this year. There is talk, as you know, I promised just before Christmas, of saying we are going to try and get an event together later in this year, but it will be later in the year. There you go. I'm going to say goodnight to everybody. Thank you very much for joining me. I'm going to cut over the credits and get back to work, and I will see you all later in the week. Thank you very much. Bye. Whoop.